And we're here today to get into the number one running back in the 2026 class, everybody's favorite running back. I don't know anybody who doesn't have him as their RB1, which sometimes can be a reason for dissent, but sometimes we got it right on the front end instead of getting right on the back end. Anyway, so we're here today to talk about Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame, former four-star recruit, Under Armour All-American, coming out of high school, back-to-back state championships, and we know his previous accomplishments from Notre Dame. So Jeremiah Love, 6 foot, 214 pounds, is a prototypical running back for today's game. So in college, we saw him have extreme efficiency in zone schemes. This past year in a zone heavy scheme, he averaged 6.9 yards a carry, accumulating almost 1,400 yards, 1,372 yards, and averaging 6.9 yards a carry. So you have a guy that can hit home runs. He had a 94-yard touchdown this past year. He had a 98-yard touchdown in the college football playoff, where he basically powered Notre Dame to a national championship appearance before, losing to the best team that NIL money could buy in Ohio State. So you got a guy who's done it in the most high leverage moments. He's displayed everything that you want to see from a prototypical back that's probably going to get day one, top 15. I've seen as high as, top 9 going to the Chiefs. The Chiefs have the 9th pick. He's being mocked to the Kansas City Chiefs. So you talk about a revenge tour, adding a guy like Jeremiah Love with the pass catching ability, with the home run hitting ability, adds an element to the offense, to an offense that we've known to be, the Legion of Zoom, the greatest show on turf 2.0. So him being mocked there would immediately put him to be, I don't know. I mean, I'd probably put him ahead of Ashton Genty at that point. But all of that to say, this is because we're talking about a special player. So Jeremiah Love's strengths are extreme contact balance. He has the ability to lower his center of gravity when upon contact, shrugging off initial contact and then being able to fight for extra yardage. I mean, and he's got the hands. He caught 28 passes this past year. He had caught 27 the year before. So over 50 receptions. That 20 reception marker is something that we want to see in order to kind of project pass catching at the next level. And so Jeremiah Love has all those things, and, he's got the production profile that you want, but it's not too much production. We're not talking about a guy who has a ton of wear and tear and, on his tire treads, I guess would be what I'm trying to say. But nonetheless, it's one of those things where it's almost too obvious. So let's lay out the case as to why it's so obvious. One, he finished 3rd in the Heisman voting. You can't really argue. He set the record for rushing touchdowns in the season, he set the record for touchdowns in the season in Notre Dame history with 21, and he tied the record for rushing touchdowns in the season. And this is all sharing a backfield with a guy who's going to be a day 2 or an early day 3 draft pick in Jadarian Price, who's awesome in his own right. You kind of think back to the Bijan Robinson and what's Roshan Johnson situation. But I mean, obviously Jadarian Price is a lot, more talented than Roshan Johnson. Or you could even go back as far as to say like Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. I don't know that Jadarian Price fits into that mold of dynamic, but nevertheless, he's entering into the NFL. He's entering into the NFL with plenty of tread left on the tires. It's not like a guy he turned 199 carries this year into, 1,300 yards. So what are we doing? Like, we can't fade him. We can't find those warts in his game. Now, I will say this. I would love to see him have a little bit more refinement when it comes to pass protection and just kind of understanding, what that's going to take. I'll tell you what, I'll say that I would love to see more examples of that on tape. But the beautiful thing about today's NFL is that if you are the type of back that he is, we can overlook that. I mean, Saquon wasn't great in pass protection, his first couple of years. He's gotten better. Derrick Henry's still not great, and he's massive. So it's about technique and the ability to the ability to consistently protect your quarterback in those situations. So you have to develop the trust, which we then pretend that it would be, it would be lead to him being out on the field and being able to receive checkdowns. But that's becoming a well-known trope that's not necessarily true. You have Devon Achane, who you wouldn't ask to pass block anyone, and he catches 65 to 75 balls every season. So Jeremiah Love, Jeremiah Smith, we don't talk about Bruno. Jeremiah Love is going to be one of the pivot point decisions in startups this year and in redraft once we get to that part. But for this part right here, we're talking about a guy who is who's going to come into the NFL most likely as a cornerstone asset. He's got long speed, as we spoke about before. The comps that I struggled with the comps for him in terms of like his running style and like what I saw, because when I put down what I saw in my notes, I said, oh, he reminds me of Clinton Portis. And it's like, well, Clinton Portis was one of the most efficient. Oh, well, okay. He reminds me of the contact balance. It reminds me of Alvin Kamara. All right, man. I'm not doing myself any favors here. Okay. When he gets in the open field, it looks like Eric Dickerson. It's like, no, that's ridiculous because he's Eric Dickerson was like 6'3", and you got to have, but he's such a high cut player that when he gets in the open field, he's chewing up these angles, and you're taking a bad angle because you don't realize that he's a long strider, and that puts you in a really rough position to try to make a play. Even if you think you have the angle on him, he could take it to the house. Example given, 98-yard touchdown in the college football playoff, 94-yard touchdown against Syracuse. So there's really not very many holes to poke in his game. I really liken him to a guy like Breece Hall. I mean, very similar styles. Breece Hall is a little bit more compact. I know he's 5'11", 217, but we just talked about how Jeremiah loves long strides. So I think, he's a little bit more high cut, meaning he's more legs than torso, and he has the sudden stop-start ability. He has the balance. I mean, the spin move, he will put you into the spin cycle in a heartbeat. So this is why everyone is so high on Jeremiah Love. And if you came here to find out if somebody would say differently, it won't be the old Chef GPT. So if you made it this far, thank you for liking, listening, commenting, subscribing. Please hit the bell for notifications. And as I always leave you, there's ball watchers and ball knowers. I'll see y'all in the next episode.